morning as a major hurricane, and the 5 o'clock advisory, the National Hurricane Center nudged the track a little bit to the west. There were a lot of computer models that were pushing it a little bit to the west, and so whereas they had it impacting landfall in Levy County, now they moved it a little bit over west to Taylor-Dixie County. Look, these things can change, but that is a slight deviation from what had been earlier today. There is a hurricane warning for the Florida Gulf Coast from Sarasota all the way to Franklin County. The 5 p.m. advisory includes that if the storm hits at high tide, storm surge could reach 8 to 12 feet in some areas, particularly in that Big Bend region. This is life-threatening storm surge. If you're in coastal low-lying areas from Tampa up through Big Bend, you need to be ready to evacuate to an inland area. Evacuation orders for many of these areas have already been issued. More may be coming throughout the balance of tonight. Clearly, you have time today and for probably the better part of tomorrow, but you are going to start seeing some impacts with winds and some nasty weather Tuesday night. And of course, we're expecting a landfall to happen sometime on Wednesday. Now, to make these evacuations easier on families, I'm directing Florida Department of Transportation to waive tolls in Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lake, Pasco, Pinellas, and Sumter counties beginning at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Current evacuation orders for coastal and low-lying areas have been issued in the following counties: Baker, Citrus, Franklin, Hernando, Hillsborough, Jefferson, Levy, Manatee, Marion, Pasco, Pinellas, Sarasota, Taylor, Union, Volusia, and Wakulla. If you are under an evacuation directive, please heed the advice of your local officials. You don't need to leave the state. You don't need to drive hundreds of miles. You don't have to try to outrun the storm. If you're in those low-lying areas, the reason why they're advising you to evacuate is because you're going to be susceptible to storm surge. And so if you get to a place that's higher ground and a safe structure, you can ride out the storm there and then go back to your home once the storm passes and all is clear. Shelters, all these places that do this are opening shelters. I think most of the shelters will probably be open sometime tomorrow morning. That's a place you can go. You can be safe there. You can go to friend's house, family's house. You can go to hotels and do that. But you do not need to get on the road and try to drive hundreds of miles to get out of any impacts of the storm. That's not advisable, and it's not necessary. Now, Visit Florida has activated the emergency accommodations module with Expedia to provide real-time availability of hotel rooms throughout the state. If you go to expedia.com/Florida, you can see what is available. I was able to visit today both Pinellas and Levy counties to meet with local officials and to provide an update on our preparation efforts. We are coordinating, as I mentioned, with utility companies. There are already more than 20,000 linemen that are ready to respond, and more on the way throughout the balance of today and tomorrow. This will be an important effort to get power back on very quickly. We have spoken with local municipalities and advised them to be able to be willing to accept the mutual aid from other utility companies and their linemen so that all of our residents can get power back on as soon as possible. We've been working with the counties to make sure they know that we stand ready to assist with requests. We have received 300 requests for resources, with most of those coming in since noon today, and the Florida Division of Emergency Management is in the process of fulfilling those requests, and that will go all through the night and into tomorrow morning. We currently have over 400,000 gallons of fuel staged and ready to deploy, and additional assets are expected over the next few days. We are prioritizing gas stations along heavy evacuation routes. We now have 8 urban search and rescue teams activated to be able to respond once the storm has passed and help people that may be in distress. Of course, water, MREs, all those things staged, ready to go. Now, when you do your hurricane plan, the first few days really should be things that you have: water, non-perishable food. This stuff will be brought in, but initially that should be something that you're preparing for, so please do that. There are currently 12 shelters throughout the state opening tonight, and at least 11 more are expected to open tomorrow. And pretty much any county that issues evacuation notices, will follow that up by opening up one of their shelters, and sometimes multiple shelters. We have activated the full 5,500 National Guardsmen available in our state to respond to the storm. They have access to a lot of different assets, both on the ground and in the air. We have already deployed 247 of the Starlink internet devices. We have another 529 staged in Central Florida. Those are ready to be deployed to impacted areas and to EOCs across the state as the need may arise. So far, 38 school districts have announced school closures over the next 2 days, along with 10 state colleges and 6 Florida universities. We have had the announcement that Tampa International Airport will close tonight at midnight, and St. Pete Clearwater International Airport will close at 3 p.m. Tomorrow. Florida Commerce has also been coordinating resources, and they're having regular calls with private sector partners to make sure that they are prepared. Unfortunately, a lot of our companies, this isn't their first rodeo, so they're ready. And I tell you, during Ian, when to see Publix and some of these gas stations get up very quickly, that made a big difference. And so we're working with them, and I know they're going to play a really important role. We'll be back here first thing in the morning with additional updates. I would just caution Floridians, pay attention to what's going on in your area. Listen to your local emergency management officials. This is going to be a major hurricane. It's likely to continue strengthening all the way until impact, and it could have catastrophic storm surge in your area. We will keep you updated on the track as that may change one direction or another, but at the end of the day, I think we've been through enough of these. I mean, if you're on that Gulf Coast, you could have major impacts even if you're outside of the cone. So please prepare accordingly. Visit floridadisaster.org/get-a-plan if you have any questions about what you may need. I would prepare to be without power. This thing comes in at Category 3. It's going to knock over trees. It's going to knock over power lines. It's going to cause an interruption in service. So just be prepared for that. Obviously, we understand how important that is by staging as many people as we do. I have no doubt those folks will get to work immediately once the storm is passed and do a great job restoring. But there is not likely to be a situation where you're not going to lose power at all if you are in the path of this storm. So please take precautions for that, and we will do our best to work with all the stakeholders to make sure that the power is back on as soon as possible. Okay, we'll hear from Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. As of 5 p.m. today, Tropical Storm Idalia was located about 35 miles south-southwest of the western tip of Cuba with maximum sustained winds near 70 miles an hour. The center of Idalia is forecast to pass near or over Cuba tonight and then reach Category 3 hurricane strength throughout tomorrow into Wednesday morning. Hurricane warnings have been issued for western Alachua, Citrus, Dixie, Coastal Franklin, Gilchrist, Hernando, Hillsborough, Jefferson, Lafayette, Levy, Madison, Manatee, Western Marion, Pasco, Pinellas, Sumter, Suwannee, Taylor, and coastal Wakulla counties. What you see playing over here on the right is storm surge. This is something that happened in Hurricane Ian on Fort Myers Beach. It is a classic example of what is going to happen with the storm surge across the state of Florida. We encourage all Floridians. This is on our Facebook page. This is on our Twitter page at FLSERT. We encourage you to go look at what storm surge actually does and actually is. This was approximately 10 to 12 feet of storm surge into Fort Myers Beach, and it was catastrophic damage. We are going to see portions of the Gulf Coast that will experience 8 to 12 foot of storm surge. That just came out from the National Hurricane Center at the 5 o'clock hour. They increased that chance of happening and raised that by about a foot. So we were looking at 4 to 7. We're now looking at 5 to 8 in some areas, 8 to 10 in others. So please make sure you are evacuating if you're asked to do so because of the storm surge. We also expect heavy rainfall, 4 to 8 inches, with maximum amounts in some areas as much as 12 along the Suwannee River Valley. We could see Suwannee River and its tributaries. This includes the Alapaha, the Withlacoochee, the Santa Fe rivers, all a part of that Suwannee River Valley that may go into flood stage as well. You will see isolated tropical storm-generated tornadoes. Locally damaging wind gusts will be possible with more organized outer rain bands that move across the Florida Peninsula Tuesday into Wednesday. When we saw that, again, in Hurricane Ian, the very first incident we had was a F0 tornado in Palm Beach County. So that was way far away from landfall when that happened. So please, again, stay in touch with your local National Weather Service, your local meteorologist, and your local emergency management agencies. Here at the State Emergency Operations Center, you heard the governor talk about the full depth and breadth of the state emergency response team, from DOT, the Department of Economic Opportunity, or Florida Commerce now, all the way over to Department of Education. Everybody is involved in this. Every state agency is here at the Emergency Operations Center, represented and preparing and responding to Florida's needs. You can visit us at floridadisaster.org for updates. That will be floridadisaster.org/updates for all your updates and sheltering information. I want to again stress that even if your community is not in the forecast cone, as the governor's already said, it does not mean that you're in the clear. That cone means that is where the eye is expected to be, not where the hurricane is expected to be. So please make sure if you're in Pinellas, Pasco, Citrus, Hernando, Lake, Sumter, Marion County, and so on, you're moving into inland Florida, you're going to be in the right front portion of that hurricane. That's where what they call the dirty side of the storm. You're going to experience problems. Again, the governor has said it. You're going to experience power outages. So please be prepared for those power outages. If you need power to survive, you need to evacuate. You need to go somewhere that's friends, family's house, relatives. You need to go to a shelter. You need to go to a hotel. Please make sure you're doing that. We have made a lot of resources available to you, the latest being the Expedia website, so please make sure you do that. One of the things that I've been trying to do here for quite some time, and I'm very, very proud of my public information staff, my communication staff, and we are happy to announce tonight that we have a one-stop access guide for new Floridians. So if you're new to the state, or you've been here at the state for a while and you want a one-stop shop of everything that's related to hurricane events, please go to floridadisaster.org/guide. Again, that's floridadisaster.org/guide. We have taken the time to put together a lot of information that will walk you through your evacuation zone, your flood zone, know your home. How do you find out exactly what your wind rating is at your home? All of that information is all inside of one guide now. And again, thanks to my comm staff for putting that together. I really appreciate that. Again, want to reiterate, you can follow us at FLSERT on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you.
Okay, so you have, if you're on that Gulf Coast, particularly in those areas from Tampa Bay up to Franklin County, I mean, you've got some time. You've got today. You've got probably most of tomorrow, but this thing's going to be here, and you're going to start feeling effects probably Tuesday night, and it will make landfall sometime on Wednesday, maybe Wednesday morning. And the impacts will be significant. And it's not just wherever the eye of the storm is. There's going to be a lot of surge up and down the coast. So please prepare for that and make sure you're making decisions that are going to protect you and your family. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah, after Ian, there were insurance companies accused by their own adjusters of denying claims or deliberately lowballing claims. Do you have a message for insurance companies ahead of this storm?
Well, we're going to be watching. We have more consumer protections now as a result of what we did in the most recent legislative session. And I know I'm going to be with the CFO tomorrow, Jimmy Petronas, and it's going to be something that he's going to be paying very close attention to. So we want to make people whole who pay for this service, and I think that they deserve to have their claims honored.
There are a number of prisons up in this part of the state. What's the state doing to protect staff and the inmates there?
So I spoke with one of the Department of Corrections emergency coordinating officers this morning, and they started yesterday enacting their plans for the facilities, especially up here in the Panhandle, and moving individuals around, making the preparations, bringing in the extra staff. So again, the Department of Corrections and Secretary Dixon are on top of that. They are moving forward with their plans, taking protective actions as necessary.
Can you elaborate What some of those protections are, or inmates being moved, for example?
If Secretary Dixon needs to move the inmates, he will move those inmates. Typically, we do in any hurricane situation. The State Department of Corrections will make those transports and movements as necessary. They will not leave any inmates in harm's way. They will not leave any staff in harm's way. So if again, just like in your Know Your Home, Know Your Zone, if the facility is rated to where it can withstand Cat 3, 4, or 5 winds, it may be better to shelter in place at the facility. Most of those locations, State Department of Corrections facilities, have full generation, so it may be better for them to stay there unless they're in a flood zone, an evacuation zone. If that's the case, then Secretary Dixon will move those individuals to safety.
Okay, so we will be back first thing in the morning, so please follow the updates that you see from any local officials. Watch the Weather Channel, watch some of those other news about where the storm is going there. They will not make a change on the track on the 8 p.m. advisory. If there is one, it could be on the 11 p.m. advisory, and of course, we'll have a 5 a.m. and advisory by the time we get in tomorrow morning. So we will update everybody on that, but it's definitely coming. It's going to be a major hurricane. It is going to impact the state of Florida, so please take the proper precautions. Thank you.